Okay, so when it comes to paid media, the biggest thing that I see is there's just too many options out there nowadays. There's way too many options. People are really confused. They don't know where to start and then where to finish. Where does this customer journey of paid media start, and how do you go along until the point where you're maxing out, you've got everything running, you're really at this point where you're saturating the market fully. Also, what's the difference between paid media for a product with an existing market or a service with an existing market, and then paid media for a new product or a new service where there is no awareness? That's what I'm going to talk about today when I talk about the paid media journey. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so today we're talking about the paid media journey. What does it look like from start to finish? Let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing is, usually people will start with paid media within Google Ads, okay? So they go into Google Ads, they're gonna wanna set up an account, but how do you get started so that you really maximize that account and get the biggest return for your money? Say you just have a few $1,000s that you're gonna be spending a month. Well, one of the main things you can do is just set up exact match through Google Ads. So what are those 10 keywords that you really know are going to have intent for people that are going to be actually looking for your product or your service? What are those 10 that you actually know that people are going to be like, if I search for this, I'm going to come in, I'm going to click on it, I'm going to convert? You've got a great chance for that. So the first thing you want to do is set that up exact match within Google AdWords so that you're showing up for those biggest terms. Then following that, these 10 keywords are going to go from exact match to phrase and then to broad match, right? So exact is when people are searching exactly for that term. Phrase and broad are a little bit more loose as far as how the ads are being served from that keyword. But you want to start with exact match within just Google Ads. And then you're going to build out that account. And usually search is the best place to start within Google Ads because that's the biggest network. People are coming in, they're looking for your product or service. So after you've done that and you've kind of maxed it out from exact match, and then now you're starting to do broad and you're starting to do phrase and you're starting to really grow the size of that account, eventually you're going to get to this point where you've saturated. If you get really big and good budgets and your business is doing really well and all these things are going great, eventually within paid media, you generally get to a point where there's the law of diminishing returns within Google Ads, okay? You're going to max it out and you're going to want to be looking for different sources so that you can drive revenue to your website so that you're not just relying on one source. So what do you do next? Well, the next logical thing to do is to take this Google Ads account and then to replicate this into Bing. Now, Bing does better for certain demographics. Generally, Bing will come installed on some computers and you'll have Bing as part of Microsoft products. Usually an older demographic will not uninstall that and switch the search engine within that browser. This actually works really well for certain spaces. Bing is not as big as Google, right? It's not as big as Google Ads. It doesn't have the reach. So you can take Google Ads, then you can go into Bing, and now this is going to give you a whole new network that you have, which is, somewhere between 19% and, 30%, as far as, as large as Google Ads. So now you get into this, in a lot of cases, it's less competitive because more people are spending on Google Ads. So you start on Bing, you do that same thing, exact match again, you get that working, then you go into phrase, then you're going to go into broad, and then you're going to max out that account. So now you've got Google Ads and you've got Bing working for you. These are both highly searched, highly intent-driven ad-serving networks where you're going to be able to establish basically leads and or revenue come in. So what do you do after that? Well, at this point, and maybe even a little bit sooner, depending on where you are within the business cycle, you're gonna want to set up remarketing. So that's somebody who comes to your website, they come to all of the site or a specific set of pages, and then you cookie them and then you remarket to them. Now, there's a lot of different things that go into remarketing, such as, are you only remarketing to people who go to the thank you page on your website, right? They filled out a lead. Are you only remarketing to people who go to the service pages on your website? Are you remarketing to everybody who went to your website? Are you only remarketing to new users? Are you remarketing to returning users who have been to your site 5 times to show higher intent? There's all these different ways you can slice and dice remarketing. You want to keep that in mind. Are in the e-commerce side, are you only remarketing to people who have been to this segment of products or this specific product with ads for just this certain product? Also, how many times are to hitting them in this remarketing sequence, and what do the ads look like? For example, on YouTube right now, I have a series of 6 or 7 ads that get followed, that get served to people as a remarketing sequence to people who went to a specific service page or a contact page, right? That's been really, really effective. So you got to kind of know how to do that. But let's get back to this. In remarketing, this is the next step, right? This is step 3 right here. Really, you're going to want to set up remarketing within the Google network, the Facebook network, YouTube, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, of course, is more B2B, and Instagram. So these are big networks, and there's other ad networks out there too. I'm not going to get too much into those in this video, but mostly these remarketing areas are definitely something that you want to set up. What happens is paid media gets bigger exponentially over time if you continue to invest in it. Through this, you're building audiences, right? You're building data, you're building audiences, you're building things that you can serve ads to throughout the future. So this click turns into a piece of data that you can use forever. And it's up to you as the really smart marketer to decide how do you want to use that data. For example, what a lot of people will do is a 30, 60, or 90-day remarketing window through each of these networks. And what you'll want to be watching here is what's the conversion rate for each of these networks. And usually what happens is within the first 30 days, the conversion rate might be 1% on all that traffic. Then it's 2, then it's 3, then it's 4. At the end of the 90-day window, you just took visitors who were converting only at 1%, and in that same data, now they're up to a much higher level. So now we've got Google Ads going, we've got Bing going, we've got our remarketing going. We're running a pretty good campaign here at this point, right? But what we haven't talked about is usually the next step within an industry where there's an existing market, right? There's already an existing market. We're not creating a market. We haven't talked about the next step, and the next step is audiences. And really the web and Google and Bing and Facebook, they're all trying to go towards audiences and less keyword based. So let's talk about that. So we talk about building audiences. Within Facebook, you can take this data, right, from all the people who have visited your website, and or you can upload a list of people if you have the ability to do that, and or you can run ads through Facebook and cookie people, and you can use that to build an audience. So you can use that to build an audience, and then you've got that audience that you can reach out to. So that's kind of like a remarketing audience, but also you can do the lookalike audience. I know a lot of people have heard about that, but really what it comes down to is you want to be pushing out awareness ads, getting people to interact with those ads. If they've interacted with those ads, create a remarketing sequence for those ads within a certain window, whatever works the best for you. And what I've seen lately is a lot of people have way too short of remarketing windows, especially in sequence windows, customer journey windows, especially for Facebook. When it comes to this platform, if you just fire up something and expect to get a return within the first 30 days, even 60 days, you're gonna be disappointed. It takes work to make it happen and do it right? All digital does. Otherwise, everybody would be a millionaire. But with Facebook in particular and Instagram, really you need to build these remarketing audiences and build these audiences and then create the lookalikes and then continue to expand and have this program kind of grow over time. Also within Google, they have similar audiences. So within Google, you can do the same type of thing. If you've got 100,000 people who have gone to your service page for something you're trying to sell, or 100,000 people who have gone to this segment of categories, you can build a similar audience off of that, the same characteristics. You can also layer that similar audience with other things like what is the location of the person, what is the gender of the person. You can get fairly granular with some of that stuff. High income or a low income, right? These things are things that you can do. So within this similar audience, these lookalike audiences, you now use this as kind of your awareness engine. So now you're building awareness through these, and then they're coming in, they get into that remarketing sequence, and then finally kind of get into this area here. Now, we talked about kind of what it looks like from the paid media perspective, 1 through 4. But what happens if you're in a new industry? This is a new industry, there's not a demand. Well, really what's kind of interesting is you pretty much just flip this upside down when you think about it, because you have to create awareness. Nobody's gonna be searching for you for exact keywords, right? Nobody's gonna be searching for the exact term that has to deal with you because it just doesn't exist yet. So then it becomes your responsibility to create the awareness for it. And some of the best ways to create awareness right now are through Facebook, are through Instagram, are through the Google Display Network, other display networks as well. YouTube, incredibly inexpensive right now. Get in front of thousands of people for hundreds of dollars dollars, and then programmatic, okay? So programmatic, and there's a lot of different ways to do programmatic, but it's all this extra inventory out there where you can get massive awareness. Of course, it's kind of broad awareness that doesn't really convert well, and that's why if you have an existing industry, it's usually the last thing people do, but if you have a new industry, it's usually somewhere a little earlier, but still not always the best return, right? It's a big awareness, so it kind of depends on what your market is as well. So we talked about paid media here, and we talked about the paid media journey. And really, you know, the most important thing I think to think about is paid media. It really does kind of work like this. So you've got your area right here, your area right here, in your area right here. And what this is awareness, right? This is where people are finding out about your product, okay? This is consideration. People are considering it. You're nurturing them through here. Finally, you've got conversion. And then right here, you've got remarketing. And all of this stuff kind of just continues to compound, right? So you're investing in here, you're investing in here, you're investing in here, you're investing in here. Generally, you want your marketing dollars to be about 10% of revenue for the company, right? So what's 10% of revenue? That's your marketing dollars. Usually your paid media budget is a pretty big piece of that. Depending on the type of the company, it could be somewhere between 90% and 30%. You know, and everybody acquires customers in different ways, so it's kind of hard for me to generalize there. But the main thing I would say is continue to scale it, right? Continue to invest more in paid media. Build awareness, build audiences, right? Build similar audiences, and it's gonna really snowball over time until the point where you've got a program that's just bringing in clients while you're asleep. So I hope you like this video on paid media and the paid media journey. There's certainly a lot that you can do within paid media today. If you like this video, give me a like, give me a comment on how you're gonna use this. And if you have any questions on how paid media works, I'd be happy to answer them. Have a great day. See you next time.